Good afternoon. My name is Nunzio Gambale, and I'm the lucky guy that's CEO and co-founder of Locata Corporation. On behalf of my company, I'd like to thank the Department of Innovation for the opportunity to speak with you today. Locata has been honoured quite a number of times by the Department of Innovation, and we're really happy to be in such a distinguished company. This conference is entitled People Making the Difference, and I'm really fond of that statement because I think it's actually a core truth. So in an effort to amplify that title, I'll hopefully impart to you a few grains of truth brought back from the innovation battlefield, some things that may sustain those of you who have more hair than me and aren't quite as far along the real world path as I am. You'll hear me keep saying that I'm a really lucky guy. The main reason for that is I discovered really early on what I love to do. In fact, if you define work as something that you have to do whether you like it or not, I promise you I'm one guy that's never done a day's work in his entire life. I've always done what I love, and as a consequence, happiness simply follows me around. I've always loved to start and see things grow. Unfortunately, this often means that you have to make something happen even when the world doesn't want it to. And in developing Locata, truly a technology that the entire GPS industry said was simply impossible, that's absolutely been our story, where we've been pushing uphill the whole time that we've been developing this technology. I'm sure you know that CEO stands for Chief Evangelizing Officer, so I can't miss an opportunity to tell you a little bit about our company, but I also want to talk about the people involved and the trials and tribulations that you have as a startup. So what have we done that deserves a new company, one that we know our team and Australia will be proud of? Let me give you some history and a few facts. Locata was founded by myself and my dear friend David Small. Meeting Dave was my lucky break number one. We literally started in a garage in 1995. Dave and I are two geeks that started playing around with GPS, which is a very new technology at that time, in our spare time. Little did we know that it was going to change our lives, but I'll get to that in a moment. So what's the problem with GPS? Why does it need any fixing whatsoever? Well, GPS has inculcated itself into every avenue and every piece of modern technology. It has become an essential and indispensable part of much of the infrastructure and the lives of the people that are in business. Importantly, it's built up an expectation of automation and robotics, which is sustained by the fact that you can accurately position machines, robots, and things like that in the future. The problem that we understood was in 1995, when I walked indoors with my GPS for the first time, it stopped working. Now, most of you have got a smartphone, a BlackBerry or an Apple iPhone. You know that you turn it on inside a mall and it tells you there's no GPS. Now, why is that? We actually saw that as a problem, and it's something that we needed to fix. The thing is that this is actually the expectation of what the world believes, and even more importantly, the world keeps telling us, if you get on the web and you will see this, that GPS and positioning is the next utility. We started to understand very quickly that the utility had enormous holes in it. And in fact, that's a picture that I'd like to really hit you and make sure that you understand. This is a quote from one of our customers. It's a very accurate description of the problem with GPS. The hassle is that there are many places, factories, open-cut mines, warehouses, across cities, where inside in malls, etc., where the GPS simply doesn't work very well. So great. How do you match the expectation of what people expect from GPS with the fact that it's full of holes? Let me just describe the problem that we faced. This is a very high-level overview of GPS, but fundamentally, GPS is a satellite constellation put up by the US military. Something that is absolutely fundamental to GPS working is that each satellite has 4 atomic clocks on board. Every satellite has to transmit the signal at exactly the same time. If it doesn't happen, that means we're talking about the speed of light. And when you have 2 satellites that are out by 1/1,000,000th of a second, that represents a 300-meter error. It's even more complex than that. The things that you see in the sky are just what is called the space segment. There's also actually an incredibly complex ground segment with a master clock under the mountain in Colorado Springs where they have the big red button that ends the world. And there's 800 engineers, the US Second Space Corps, that run this full time. And it's an incredibly expensive and very difficult system to maintain. In fact, you have to be a country. And the total cost of the GPS constellation for the US taxpayer is $40 billion. And it costs about $1.5 billion per annum to synchronize. So when we started to tell people that we were thinking of filling those holes in the cheese with something that looked exactly the same as GPS, here's what all of the experts saw. Because it is an incredibly difficult problem. And in fact, we had many, many experts who weren't backward at all in telling us so. And I promise you, these things that are up on the screen are real quotes. That's from one of the most famous VCs in Australia who was summing up what he thought our chances were of doing this. Of course, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. Dave's even worse than me. And saying things like this just throws fuel on the fire. I'd like you to meet a Locata light. This is a world-first device. There is literally nothing else like it in the world. This device may as well have come from Mars because it has no antecedents whatsoever. It does the same job as a $100 million GPS satellite, except it can, for the first time, do it on the ground. I hope I can impress some of the engineers here because by telling you that the core inventive Locata step is a way of autonomously synchronizing our devices just like the GPS satellites. Now you'll note here that there's no way that you're going to fit an atomic clock, let alone 4 atomic clocks in this device. But the device actually synchronizes better than all the atomic clocks, the $40 billion worth of constellation, with a new system that we've developed called time lock. Now, to be clear, the Locata lights today are running for the US military at up to 50 kilometers apart, and they are synchronizing to a precision of better than 2 nanoseconds. That's 2 billionths of a second. All without an atomic clock. And over those distances, 50 kilometres, we're giving better than 10 centimetre positioning without any GPS whatsoever. That's why the industry honestly believed that what we were trying to develop was science fiction. I hope you're impressed. It's really revolutionary, and it's currently been granted 85 patents, and we have another 160 in the works and hundreds more to come. So the concept is really actually very simple. We fill the holes wherever you need them. And the holes are in warehouses, in open-cut mines, and I'll get to some of the applications in a moment. But we call it your own GPS, and it overcomes myriad problems that space-based GPS gives to business users. It has huge business potential, and it is seriously disruptive. The pushback from the industry has been, as you can imagine, pretty severe and never-ending. For instance, when we emerged from stealth mode, and we've been developing this in stealth for 16 years, we launched it for the first time on September the 21st at the Institute of Navigation Conference in Portland, Oregon. I approached the most important magazine in the world, GPS World, and I said to the editor, "Alan, this is important technology, I want the front cover." And his exact words were, "Nunzio, unless I see this with my own eyes, you're not getting any space in my magazine." Which translated was just another way of saying we think you're full of BS. Fact is, they came, they saw, and honestly, we just blow them away. And in fact, we've launched the technology for the first time 2 months ago, and I want to cover some of the things that we're actually doing right now. Like a Geosystems, the world's biggest biggest GPS company. Leica is out of Switzerland and they're an enormous business globally. They are the world's best GPS company for engineering and surveying. They're currently deploying our locator nets across open-cut mines. Just to give you an idea of the sort of accuracy that we're talking about here. This is Leica's own slide set that they're presenting at conferences. They call our accuracy results amazing. This is a vehicle traveling around, and you can see here there's a red plot is GPS, the black one is locator. We'll zoom in on it a little. You can see now we have 0.5 metre on a side, and very importantly, you can see how accurately the two systems line up. Critically, you take the GPS away and you can see that we actually fill exactly the same type of system. Importantly, this is their own reported results. Across a 5-kilometre area, we're giving them better than 2.5 centimetre positioning, completely autonomous. We've been working in stealth mode, yes, but a little over a year ago, the US Air Force, the inventors of GPS, gave Locata a sole source, multi-year contract to be the supplier of this technology when they jammed GPS. We've been working with the 746 Test Squadron, the Centre of Excellence for GPS Development. We're currently working with them to deploy the technology over 2,500 square kilometres of the White Sands Missile Range, the most important range in the world. We've passed the critical design review, if anyone understands what that means in military parlance. And here's a picture. I was at White Sands in September. We ran a network over 2,000 square miles, and in that area they were acquiring our signal at 100 kilometres. This truly is science fiction. Importantly, last month, I'm really proud to say this is an Australian technology. The FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, who pretty well are in charge of air traffic control globally, Leo Eldridge, the head of the FAA for navigation, presented Locata to the US President's Advisory Board on GPS as a new alternate positioning technology for nationwide service for the USA as a backup to GPS. So there are many, many other examples I can give you, and we've come out of stealth mode just absolutely flying, because some of the people in the industry have known what we've been doing for a while. Now, many people talked to us when we first started as looking at us in competition with GPS. There is no way you would say that. They looked at us as a David and Goliath problem. We're here to complement and supplement GPS and allow all of those things that modern technologies, modern automation, modern robotics need for high precision, accurate positioning. We're a new toolbox. And I'll tell you, this is how we felt when we actually got the time lock system to work. Now, we loved what we were doing. We had exciting, fascinating technology, so we went back to the markets again to try and get funding. And the typical response to our incredible advance in Australia, and I swear to you, this is a real world actual quote. That one still stings, 10 years on. The point is that we have so many experts telling us it can't be done. Hell, if I had $1 for every time we were told that, we would never work, I wouldn't ever had to make anything because I'd be rich. So here's 3 lessons that I've learned, 3 gems that I'd like to impart to anyone that thinks you want to make a difference to the planet, those who harbour some spark in your heart to do something completely new. Number 1, don't let anyone steal your dream. You will quickly learn that 99.9999% of the planet will give you thousands, millions, endless reasons why you can't do it. Don't believe them. You can and you will achieve extraordinary things if you have the courage to tackle them. My favourite inventors were the Wright brothers. Can you imagine how many times Wilbur and Orville were told, hey guys, if God had meant us to fly, and you know the way that works. Hear me very clearly. Don't listen to the guys on the sidelines knocking you. Stuff them. Strive for great things. Lesson 2 is this. Growing your company to a substantial size is a team sport. You simply cannot ever take something like Locata to the world alone. So when you come across that 0.1% of people who actually believe what you're talking about, hang on to them for dear life. You will be really, really blessed if you find that some of those supporters are also your wife or your husband, your friends and your family. They will sustain you through those dark times when you really think you're out of your mind and will never make it. So remember this, treasure and cherish your supporters because you won't get there without them. Now that's where the Department of Innovation comes into the story. In the early days, when no other funding group would touch us with a barge pole, we were lucky enough to meet some guys in Canberra from the Department of Innovation who listened long enough to understand what we were saying, and in 2001 we received our first grant. In the end, we received, I believe, the largest research and development grants ever given to a brand new Australian startup, and we intend to pay Australia back in spades. I can honestly say that the folks that I worked with in the Department of Innovation are the best public servants I've ever met, and a credit to the very notion of being there to serve the public. My hat goes off to every one of those people that helped us along the way. Thank you. Lesson number 3 may sound just a little bit strange, but actually it's very, very important. Be naive. I'd be less than honest if I told you that we always knew where we were going. Honestly, no one in their right mind wakes up one morning and says, I think I'll just replace a $40 billion constellation of satellites. The enormity of the job simply would overwhelm you. So another simple lesson is this. It pays to be totally naive when you start out to change the world, because Dave and I just kept doing what any engineer would do. We kept fixing the problems methodically, intelligently and efficiently. You just keep at it, you don't stop, and then one day you wake up and you go, wow, look where we've come. And from a business perspective, being naive is extremely valuable as well. Blissful ignorance may probably be actually your greatest weapon. Anyone that understood the amount of truly insane work, struggle, frustration and persistence that's required and is in front of you probably would be too smart to start in the first place. So here's a lesson that I've learned. Don't try to predict the future, because I promise you, you have no clue. Do these things, do these 3 things, and I promise you, you will be lucky like I am, and you'll be very happy. So finally, this is a great picture of one of my teammates when we were setting up a network for the US Air Force around Canberra. They're the sort of people that you need around you to make this stuff work. You need people like that to get you to the top of the mountain, and I have great respect for every person that we work with in Locata. You have to find those great people and you have to hang on to them. And finally, is it worth it all? Well, if you do it right, here's what it looks like in my head. I hope I can motivate somebody at some stage along this path to undertake your own impossible journey. Have fun. Thank you.